Let's start out by talking about the New England Patriots.
Last place in the division.
Are they the new Browns?
Are they the new Browns because they have the offensive coordinator from the Browns now,
Okay.
and they're terrible. The Browns used to be terrible.
Yes.
Patriots used to be terrible. Got very very good. Now might be terrible again.
Yeah, which is cool. I'm into that. So their 2023 record: 4 wins, 13 losses.
Bottom
20.
of the barrel in most stats. I think you were about to say 28th in passing, 26th in rushing, 32nd. They were actually tied with the Panthers for 32nd best in points scored.
That's a good. That's a good team to be tied with. I like that a lot.
It is not.
Was this an injury situation? Lay it down.
Not a ton. They had some O-line injuries starting the year. Ramondre Stevenson, by the time the season was done, went on IR. He had played through some nagging injuries throughout the year, but I don't know that there's a big injury storyline to tell here for 2023. They just did not have players, did not have up-to-date coaching, and everything had kind of fell apart.
Cool. So it's a suck problem, not
It's
an
a
injury
suck problem.
It's a suck problem. So what is their 2024 looking out? We know that Bill Belichick got fired. That rules. As a longtime Patriot hater, big fan of that.
Yes, Belichick fired, Bill O'Brien fired. As I mentioned, they have brought in for fantasy. We care a little bit more about the offensive coordinator. They have brought in Alex Van Pelt, who is coming over to the Patriots after being fired by the Browns. That's head coach Gerard Mayo, who was defensive coordinator. I think he played with the Patriots. He's been there for a long time. This team, interestingly, does not have a current permanent GM. Bill Belichick was their GM. They had acting GM Elliott Wolf for this offseason. They are still looking for someone to fill in that role.
Cool vibe. Cool vibe. How's that O-line looking?
They are coming back, same kind of group as last year. They were okay, fine, forgettable. Not the main reason that this team sucked last year, but a couple of changes. So they're bringing in, I've got his name, this is going to be a tough one for me to say, Chukwuma Okorafor. He's going to fill in some depth, and then they've drafted guys in third round and fourth round to play as either depth or just revamp this offensive line. For fantasy, I don't see this as a major concern, and I don't see it as someone that's going to hold this team back. If I'm thinking of 2023, like it would be hard for them to be worse as an offense than 2023. So the offensive line's not going to be a big consideration for the Patriots.
Absolutely. So their QB room of Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, unfortunately, no longer with us.
Unfortunately, terrible.
Two friends that I know that are Patriots fans that bought Mac Jones jerseys last year's. Hey, it was a bad run, but I love your heart.
Ooh, he was not really ever good. Yes, so the whole QB room completely revamped. They drafted Drake May, fourth overall, third quarterback drafted. They're bringing in Jacoby Brissett to start the year. He has some familiarity. If you remember, Jacoby Brissett started for the Browns 2 years ago,
That
2022,
right.
when Deshaun Watson was suspended, and Alex Van Pelt would have been the OC there. So he comes in, knows the system. He's actually started his career on the Patriots. But for the quarterbacks, the coaching staff just hasn't said who's starting yet. We think at some point Drake May is going to take over for Jacoby. But if we're thinking of this for fantasy, like Jacoby Brissett can lead an offense. He's been fine. He could lead this offense. If there were receivers that we really cared about for this offense, he could get them the ball decently well. He's not going to poop his pants out there.
Yeah.
When Drake May takes over, we hope that he won't as well. But for fantasy numbers, like these guys are being drafted as quarterback 30 right now. So not something I'm really thinking about. Maybe you're stashing him in a 2 QB league, or I think we'll know more as we get closer to the season, but not a ton of information for quarterbacks here. They can get you through. They can get the rest of the team working, but they're not anyone you really want to be starting.
Yeah, so avoid this quarterback room unless you have to, unless you have a little bit too much faith in Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, there's upside for May just because he's a rookie and he could be good, but he'll cost you nothing to get. Want me to cover running backs?
Yeah, let's jump into our running backs here, because that was a kind of a weird situation last year. It felt like with Ezekiel Elliott in there. Ramondre Stevenson was really good 2 years ago, or really serviceable at least 2 years ago.
He was. So we'll cover some of that. So Ramondre Stevenson was paired with Damian Harris, I want to say who it was, in 2022, and Ramondre finished as a running back 1 in 12-team leagues. So that would just be production in the top 12. And he was usable. Going from 2022 to 2023, they brought in Ezekiel Elliott from the Cowboys. He hadn't been that great ending his time at the Cowboys. The fall off had started, and it was kind of continued in New England. Ezekiel Elliott wasn't the reason this team was terrible, but he wasn't doing a lot to make them great. He was taking a lot of carries. Ramondre Stevenson this year, he's being ranked as the 20th running back off the board. I think that's fine. He had some injuries last year. As I mentioned, he finished the year on IR. He played through a couple injuries. He finished the year at 36. At 36th, all things considered, with that time missed. And he was putting up about 10 points a game on one of the worst offenses in the league. 10.6 PPR, half PPR fantasy points. So I think he's going to bounce back. When I'm looking at other running backs in that range being ranked around 18 to 24, it's guys like Aaron Jones, David Montgomery. Ahead of him, behind him, James Conner, Zamir White in Vegas, DeAndre Swift with the Bears. Like, that seems about the range where I'd want him. Like, he could jump maybe up past someone like James Cook at 14 if the offense gets a lot better and he's taking control. So I see upside here. It seems like if you get to round 4, 5, 6, he's there, snag him. Or if he's going off at that time, 20 feels good with some upside built in.
Yeah, I feel like that 20 slot feels really good. I mean, if he doesn't have injuries, I mean, he was a guy that he was getting some catches. He was getting good yardage, like he ran well. That feels pretty solid. I mean, if that offensive line is anything at all, you'd think they might be able to use him as more of a cornerstone. But it could be interesting if they start to do like more of a two-back sort of situation. I'm hoping that he comes back. I think he was a really exciting player to have in fantasy, Yeah,
he was exciting. He was catching balls. They brought in Antonio Gibson, who may take some of that work. He comes over from Washington, from the Commies. He's being ranked at running back 44. He finished last year in a two-back system at running back 41. All this really does for me is solidify Ramondre as the lead guy. Like this. Yeah. Antonio Gibson's a fine player, but he's not really a threat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'll make for an interesting room. Is there anything else we need to cover running back? Because I feel like that one's just we'll see how it lays out there.
Yeah, the last takeaway is Ramondre Stevenson has some upside there. 20 seems like, I feel like he has a really safe floor. This is the kind of pick I like to make, where I can see how he could jump other guys and go back to being an RB1, and I don't see a lot of risk.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about their wide receiver room or their lack of one.
So it's interesting because it's not a lack of wide receiver room. Like, they might need a second room to put all of these guys in. Just none of them are very good.
Yeah.
No one there was good last year. When I thought of notable departures, like Devontae Parker was nothing last year. I don't know how many games he played. Didn't really catch any passes. When I'm looking at guys they brought in, I listed KJ Osborne coming over from the Vikings, who's a fine third wide receiver. Jalen Reagor coming over from, I think he was on the Ravens last year. He was a notable first-round pick for the Eagles the same year as Justin Jefferson. I think picked right before Justin Jefferson and has been a massive bust. Those two are joining a long list of receivers that will hit for bullet points. Most of these are not fantasy relevant. And I'm not covering all of the depth chart here, but Kendrick Bourne, he's in his 8th season. He's been with the Patriots for a while. No, I'm not seeing any fantasy value there. Demario Douglas, 6th round pick last year. He had 78 targets. He could be something this year, but it's a new coaching staff, new GM kind of deciding how they want to do things. I'm not really excited for that. Jalen Polk, picked at the top of the 2nd round out of Washington. That is someone I would consider as a late round guy. If you're looking at rounds 11, 12, 13, yeah, sure. Someone is going to catch balls in this offense, and we don't think that they're going to be 32nd again. They've made significant changes. They should hopefully kind of regress back towards the middle of the pack. And if they do that, someone's going to catch passes. Javon Baker, 4th round pick. I think he might also be out of Washington. I'm not positive on that. Don't hold me to that. 4th round guy could be something. He joins Juju Smith-Schuster, who I heard has the worst knee in history.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
That last year, doctors were saying his knee is completely destroyed, and that they said when they looked at his knee, they wanted to vomit.
That's how I felt, looking at the offense and their emblem and their team colors.
So he is still there. He could be a cut candidate. I don't know how much money they're trying to save. And then he's also there with Keishawn Boutte and Tyquan Thornton, later round picks from recent years who have been fine. I think this seems like a wide receiver room in flux. They've got what they want their quarterback of the future to be, but not a ton of receiving options there for him. This feels a lot like the Bears a few years ago, running Dante Pettis out there and other guys that will leave this team and go to no other team.
Yeah, so in short, don't touch anybody in the wide receiver room because the quarterbacks aren't, so why should you?
I don't think you're going to have to pay to get anyone. If you're in a super deep league, KJ Osborne maybe, or Jalen Polk, but you're just not – they're all free.
Exactly, yeah. Tight end position.
Hunter Henry, still there. He's been here for a couple years now. He's had some years where he's been relevant in fantasy. He's being ranked right now as tight end 18. He's a bye week guy. If you find him in a good matchup and you need to fill in for a week, you could shoot for a touchdown with him. But he's not someone I'm looking to draft or hold much.
Yeah. So big 3 takeaways for this team. What's your number one?
This team, the offense will be better than last year. It's hard to be worse than worst. So they should jump up.
Your number one takeaway is can't get any worse.
It would be very hard for them to get worse. They brought in a lot of offensive players through the draft, just like guys to fill in on the line, receivers, a new offensive coordinator, entirely new front office, sort of as close to a new front office as you could get without having one. So they have to be better. And second thing, one of these wide receivers will have some value throughout the year. You just don't have to pay for it at the draft. And third thing, you could draft Ramondre Stevenson. He's someone I'll be targeting at running back 20. If ADP starts to change that conversation might change, but right now sounds like good value.
Absolutely. So Ramondre Stevenson is on your radar. Maybe some wide receivers, but if we're talking about draft, you don't want to draft any of these guys. So kind of a wait and see sort of team is what it feels like. I mean, I know that's kind of an easy thing to say when they were ranked 32nd in offense. But that's just like if you're quick on that waiver wire on your Tuesday, then you could make some moves.
If you think about the other team that finished 32nd, Adam Thielen was really valuable last year. You didn't have to draft him, and he put up wide receiver 2 numbers throughout the season. So one of these guys could be something. My guess is Jalen Polk or KJ Osborne.
Yeah.